given the fact, and I know you don't want any publicity out of it, so this isn't for that purpose, but the fact of the matter is, if shareholders don't know, they're about to find out that you made $100,000 donation to support the Quebec healthcare system, the 3 different entities, including Montreal General Hospital, and a couple of other entities. What I find unbelievable about that is that's being done during a time when people are really concerned about their own personal liquidity and financial viability and so on. And you've stepped up. So what is the message? So you don't want the accolades. So we're not going to, other than me saying thank you on behalf of everybody, because no matter what, I'm Canadian and this helps. So that's fantastic. But what does this say about civic responsibility at a time when society needs to help each other rather than just retreat into their corners and look after themselves? What's your message to the corporate world? What's your message to your shareholders?
So George, I don't want to use the same adjectives everybody in the marketplace is using, but this is unprecedented times. There's a crisis in front of us, and I was moved when I saw a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember now the time frame, a video of Europeans on their balconies all at the same time clapping and banging pots in support of the healthcare workers that are in the front line, our defense against this virus. And it dawned on me that these are the unsung heroes who leave their families to battle the virus, to put their lives at risk so that we can live. They're like our soldiers. And I said to myself, there's going to be parades for them afterwards. They're going to be our heroes.
Yeah.
But you know what? It'll be really nice to do something to demonstrate to them, and that was the purpose of it, more a demonstration to our frontline healthcare workers that we have their back, that we're there for them, that it's not just a few dollars, it's a significant amount of money. Even to me, George, I don't have that type of money laying around. I can't take it with me, but I thought it was to give them the confidence as they're gearing up, and they must be afraid, and they're talking to their families, and they're seeing firsthand it develop, that the public has their back. Yes, in Canada, the government has their back too, but the public has their back to give them money to spend where they may not be able to spend. Even if it's just to have coffee to keep them up at night during their shifts, that they can afford it. So from that aspect, that's why I did it, George, to demonstrate to them that we have their backs, in hope that other people would also, leverage off of this. Now, in terms of corporate responsibility, I think too often companies think in terms of the bottom line. At PyroGenesis, we're not laying anybody off.
Bravo.
We're not laying anybody off.
Bravo, Peter.
But we don't have tons of money in the bank, George. Okay? I think it's our responsibility to do that to the community. I mean, can you imagine? This is not just laying someone off and they can go and look for another job tomorrow and have an interview. They're locked up at home. They're locked at home with their spouse and their kids at maybe a 50% reduction in their salary, trying to make ends meet and not even being able to go out and interview.
And worrying about their lives.
And worrying about their lives.
At the exact same time.
And with all the social stress and emotional stress of being at home with a spouse in a small quarters with kids, and you can't have money on the, this is just unconscionable. For companies that have money in the bank to lay people off, unconscionable. At PyroGenesis, we work in a team. If we get through it, we're going to get through it together. And that's how we rock. And that's how we roll. And you know what, George, if I could make a little advertisement here.
Yes, go ahead. The floor is yours, my man.
Positions out there, welders and technicians that have been laid off. We didn't lay anybody off at Pyro. Had you worked at Pyro, you wouldn't have been laid off. And the reason why I say that, sometimes it's very competitive in the marketplace, George, to hire these people when you're competing against much bigger organizations. And I'm trying to make a bid here. It's a sales sort of, that when you go back to work for that big company, maybe you want to send your resume to us, because if you're really good, we can use you. And here we work as a team. So
big companies are great, but they're also cutthroat at the end of the day. They just chop. That's it. Whereas PyroGenesis is that mid-level company that's got a soul and understands its corporate civil responsibility, which I think is unbelievable for you to say, Peter, because look, we all know your balance sheet, right? You're a public company. We all know it. It's not as if you have $20 million sitting in the bank right now to say, hey, George, we can handle payroll for 3 months and weather the storm. It would be a lot easier. And I commend you, my friend. I'm not kidding when I say this. I commend you that it would be easy to say, hey, what can we do? Coronavirus, we're going to let people go. They're going to be taken care of by, the government, and the government will top them up. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how long those lines are, the paperwork, any of that. But money aside, Peter, I think what you're doing, both at Pyro and because we're going to make sure this message gets out separately to the corporate world in Canada. What you're doing is the mental stress, the personal anxiety that you are saving everybody. And that's what we should all be doing. At Agoracom, we're not letting anybody go. No one's getting cut, anything. We're going to weather this for the next 3-4 months, and then we'll see after that how things go. Because
George,
pit. But what you're doing for your staff is unbelievable because they're going home and saying, I got a job and I can eat. I can focus on saving my family's life rather than having to worry about,
And George, if you don't have money in the bank and you can't, if you're a company that you just don't have the revenues, they dried up and you can't employ them, that's different. Don't feel guilty. You have to do it. But others, George, don't have to do it. And you know something else, George? I'm sure that there's going to be people out there taking advantage. And
that's unfortunate, but you're right.
That's unconscionable. You have people that sometimes, in the ice storm here, people are selling $5, $10 coffees and they're taken to task. And I think, George, that people that take advantage of the situations in society right now should be called out for corporate responsibility. We all have to band together here. This is not a time to try and extract an advantage, to fire people when you don't have to fire people, and let the government have the burden. We got to pull together. And anyway, that's my message. I'm very passionate about it, George. We got to stick together. We're doing it at Pyro. We're in a situation, I think, from a financial perspective, that we can now. We can, and I'm happy. And thanks for bringing up George, because I'm very passionate about doing the right thing.
The dividend to shareholders, the dividend to society, sometimes can't always be measured by the bottom line. The dividend has to be that we as shareholders can look at Pyro and say, when the chips were down, my company did the right thing at the end of the day. And, I think that's a bigger dividend than money at the end of the day. And I'm going to tell you this, you've already inspired my family. We're having a conference call tomorrow and thinking that we're going to kind of try and follow you and what you've done.
Oh, wow, George. Wow.
Yep. Because, and I should have thought about it sooner, actually. And then what we should be doing is maybe using that to inspire a lot of people in the capital market to see, and any amount. Maybe not everyone can reach the 100,000. Maybe it's 50. Maybe it's 20. Maybe it's 10.
$10.
10. Send something to show, because you're right. It's not just the money, but when healthcare workers see that they're getting support, that people are taking it out of their pockets, right? That gives them, the Greeks say couragio, that gives them the strength to show up and say, people care. So and because they are legends at what they're doing. So Peter, man, today you showed your leadership to the Canadian corporate world, and especially the small cap industry. You've done it by executing the business, and you've done it by helping your employees, by making sure they have food on the table and that being unaffected, and by helping. And that's, what can I tell you, man? I'm not kidding. I've never applauded for anybody on an interview, but thanks for being you, and thanks for inspiring the rest of us to do.
It's tough times. I'm happy that I can provide this right now. I'm happy that our investors, when the market's tanking, we had a little bit of good news to give them some hope in the markets. And I wish it was under different circumstances, George, but this is where we are, and this is what we have to do.
And it'll be remembered, Peter. So thank you so much. This is probably the best interview we've ever done. Not with you, just period. Just the best interview we've ever done. The complete trifecta, the success of the business, taking care of your team, taking care of society. So my full applause to you and your team, because you're the decision maker, but let's not forget the whole team is deciding to make this decision. You're not your board, your officers, your management team. So thank all of them on behalf. I think as I speak on behalf of all shareholders of Pyro and all players in the capital markets that say bravo and thank you for doing what you've done.
And George, if I can just say one last word to everyone.
Of course.
I'm at the office. If I didn't have to be, I wouldn't be. I prefer to be at home. But those that can, stay home, stop the spread, and that will save lives. And a last shout out to the Quebec government for having done the right thing very quickly, not worrying what people think about what they're going to do, not afraid about what people say about what they're doing. They shut down the universities and the schools early. You will never know how many lives they saved, but they saved lives. And everyone else that can, please do stay at home. We'll stop the spread. We'll get over this. This too will pass, and we can celebrate later on.
Perfect, Peter. Thank you, man. For everyone at home, you've been watching, if you don't know by now already, Peter Pascali, or you've been listening via podcast to Peter Pascali at PyroGenesis that trades on the TSX Venture Exchange on the stock symbol PYR. Hey, if there's anything you want to ask Peter, usually I talk about the due diligence of the company, but we've done enough of that in this interview. But if you have questions, you want to talk to Peter, you're inspired by what you've seen, the PyroGenesis forum on Agoracom is one of the best we've ever seen for interaction between shareholders and management communicating. So get there, post your questions. Peter, I don't know, maybe I'm going beyond my pay grade, but ask your question about anything, given the fact that, Peter's so knowledgeable and what's going on and what should be done about civic responsibility,
George,
all those things. What's that?
No, I don't. I'm not that. I surround myself with smart people. That's why I sound like I'm smart, but I do.
Then you'll parrot the information that maybe other people can't get to. But get to that forum, interact. Hey, we're all at home. We can't watch Netflix all day long, so why not just enrich ourselves with information, sharing, and caring? And thanks, Peter. Thanks to everyone at home. Like Peter says, be safe, be well,
guys,
and we'll see you next time.
See you on the other side. Take care. Ciao.